What's up, YouTube? This is Bystander X79, guys. Today I've come to my latest deck profile video for January 2022. And today, guys, right out of the gate, I'm going to be covering my updated True Draco deck. Now, Draco's not really doing that much in the metagame at all. Nobody's really playing it. Sucks because it is a fun deck. I've been using this in more pickup duels than anything. And to be very honest, even though it's not getting a lot of play in the competitive meta, we are seeing that it can hang out with the meta decks, especially with the different floodgates you can actually utilize in this deck. A lot of times you can customize it to the way you want to play and just slow your opponent down to a crawl to the point where you're going to be able to pick apart their boards in a simple play game state and be able to go in for the win. The deck cards I added into this deck actually amplify the picking apart your opponent's board, and even their hand for that much better. So I'm actually very excited to actually show you what I've come up with. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this deck profile. First and foremost, we got 3 copies of Ignis Heat, the True Draco Warrior. Now, all the True Draco monsters, they have this amazing ability to utilize continuous spells and traps as tribute fodder, allowing you to play a lot of different high-level monsters onto the field without having to worry about playing a lot of lower-level monsters on the field first in order to get them out. One of the most unique things about the True Draco archetype, and it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it in the first place. The second thing is that every time your opponent activates a card effect, whether it be monster, spell, or trap, and you have your face-up True Draco monsters in the field, you're going to be getting different effects. More specifically, search effects. In this particular case with Ignis Heat, whenever your opponent activates an effect, you're going to be either searching your deck for or placing a True Draco continuous spell onto the field. And this just helps the deck get going really fast because you're able to get your tribute fodder onto the field and just be able to do a lot of different things with the deck. Get that piece of fuzz out of the way. Next up, we have 3 copies of Majesty made in the True Draco caster. Okay. When she's in the field, your opponent activates a effect. You're going to be adding a True Draco monster from your deck to your hand, which is always a good thing. Last but not least, the 1 copy of Dynamite Knight, the True Draco fighter. I still have no clue why this guy is at 1 when the trap cards are at 3. Hopefully it comes off the list on the next upcoming list. That being said, whenever your opponent activates a card effect while he's on the field, you're going to be either searching a True Draco or True King trap card to add to your hand or place face up on the field. That's it for the monster lineup for the True Dracos. For the support cards, we have 2 copies of Amano Awano. Amano Awano, very awesome spirit monster. When this card's on the field, monsters cannot activate effects. Period. Blocks hand traps. Allows you to play through established boards. Of course, if you're going second, I would definitely up the copies to 3 so you actually will see it a little bit more. But still, it works out very well. Even if your opponent decides to hit Amano Awano with something like Imperm or Chalice, which is very popular in the meta right now, not a big deal because having a monster on the field is tribute fodder, so you have the ability to tribute it off and get into your monster. So it's really not that big of a deal if it winds up getting negated. Now for the spice that I'm running, I'm actually running these 3 Mega Monarchs. I typically play blind first, so this is the reason why I keep all 3 of these cards in the deck. Depending on the matchup and going into games 2 and 3, depending on how I playing and what I'm playing against, I will adjust the ratios accordingly. I keep the extra copies of these guys in my side deck, but right now, it's really awesome because all these guys can be summoned with just 1 monster of the same attribute on board, which is huge, and you get all these extra effects. So let's just go through the monsters real fast. Testalos, the Mega Monarch, very awesome. You get to look at your opponent hand, choose a card from their hand, and if it happens to be a monster, they lose life points equal to that monster's level times 200. So if you look at your opponent's hand and you see that they have a Nibiru, you can just get rid of the Nibiru. They get hit with 2,000 points of damage. And if you use a fire attribute monster as its cost, which is Ignis, you're going to be inflicting an additional 1,000 points of damage on top of that. So you can hit your opponent for up to 3k damage just based on what they have in their hand. Rise of the Mega Monarch? Oh man, this guy is awesome. Most expensive Mega Monarch in this particular deck. Thanks to the Florindaries deck. But I digress. When you tribute summon them using Majesty Maiden, you can target cards on the field or in the graveyard and return them to the top of their owner's deck. So you can actually really stack up your opponent's deck to the point where they're going to be back a couple of turns. Not only that, using Majesty Maiden, you get the additional effect to return an additional card off your opponent's field back to the hand. And that actually works out pretty damn well for clearing and picking apart your opponent's board. With Mega Mobius, utilizing Dynamite Knight, you're able to pop up to 3 cards off your opponent's back row. So you're going up against the back row heavy deck. This is definitely an amazing thing. And because you use Dynamite Knight, and it's water attribute, your opponent cannot chain any of those cards. So these are the 3 that I like. Like I said, I like to play blind going first, or second, that matter. And then as the game and match progresses, I side out the ratios depending on whether I'm going first or second and what my opponent is playing. Next up, for the spells, we got 3 copies of True Draco Heritage. This is one of the True Draco continuous spells. All True Draco's continuous spells have the same couple of effects where they grant you an additional tribute summon during the course of your turn, and then whenever these cards are sent to the graveyard, you can target spells and traps on your opponent's turn, just one of them, and pop it, which is awesome. It gives you that little extra field control. True Draco's original effect is basically for every True Draco or True King card that's been destroyed in hand or on the field and sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card based on the card's type. So if you destroy a monster, you get to draw a card. You get destroy a spell, you get to draw a card. Destroy a trap, you draw a card. You destroy a monster and a trap, you draw 2 cards. You get the idea. You only get one draw per each card type, but you know what? It works. Those extra drawers do help. Next up, we got 2 copies of Disciples of the Draco Phoenix. This is the mini Pot of Harvest effect for the True Draco R-type. I know a lot of players just liked running 3 copies, but I felt running 2 is all that's necessary. I kind of find the third one getting a little bit cloggy at times, especially if you can't utilize the effect very early off in the duel. Yeah, you want to be seeing Heritage a lot more than Disciples. Basically, what you can do is that its original effect allows you to take 3 True Draco cards from your graveyard, shuffle them back into your deck, and you draw a card. Next up, we have 1 copy of Gigantic Diagram, the must-have in the deck, and then, of course, we have 1 copy of Terraforming, so you're kind of running at least 2 in this particular case. Diagram power boosts all your Draco monsters by 300 attack and defense. The first time a tribute summon True Draco or True King monster is destroyed by battle, each turn it's not destroyed, so you actually protect your monsters from being run over that easily. They have to attack them twice. And then once per turn, you can destroy 1 other card you control or in your hand and add a True Draco or True King card from your deck to your hand. And that just helps set off a lot of the various effects that you need to help pick apart your opponent's board. The other field spell that I run, 3 copies of Domain of the True Monarch. I mean, if you watched the video at the start, didn't have an extra deck, so that pretty much signaled that I was running on Domain build. I love Domain in this deck, predominantly because as long as I don't have an extra deck and I have a triple summon monster on the field, my opponent's not special summoning from the extra deck, and that alone can just win you games, since a lot of decks out there aren't so extra deck heavy and dependent. Also, it power boosts your attacking tribute summon monsters by an additional 800 attack points. And if you want to play around with levels and stuff like that, you can reduce the level of a level 8 monster in your hand to level 6 to make it a little bit easier to tribute summon. To be very honest, you don't really need that last effect since you already have the matching attributes, and they are all tribute summoned as well. So you just need the first couple effects there. Next up, March of the Monarchs. It is a continuous spell, which makes it tribute fodder for your True Draco cards. But while this card is face up in the field, your tribute summon monsters can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So, yeah. Alright, next up we run 3 copies of Pantheism of the Monarchs. We do run some good Monarch spells and traps in this, so you can always discard a Monarch spell or trap and draw 2 cards. Also, this card, even if this card is ashed or stopped by an effect, you can get the other effect from the graveyard by just banishing it in the same turn. You reveal 3 Monarch spell and trap cards. You add one to your hand, and the others get shuffled into the deck, so you can always get the card you needed into your hand right away. I am running 1 copy of Return of the Monarchs. Yes, it is another continuous spell, which makes it tribute fodder for your True Draco monsters. But whenever you tribute summon any type of monsters, you get to search your deck for your Mega Monarchs. So, depending on who you summon, can really help you depend on what you're going to be searching for. Next up, we run 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Duality does not really interfere with this deck because this deck doesn't special summon at all. So you're allowed to dig 3 cards into your deck, choose the card you need, add it to your hand, and move on with your turn. Okay, we're only running 1 copy of True King's Return. Again, we don't special summon all that much, and to be very honest, True King Returns takes a True Draco True King monster from your graveyard, special summon it to your field, in defense position. But the problem with it is that the monster, since the monster in this deck, the True Draco monster, is going to be special summoned, you're not getting its effects, so it's just there for tribute fodder. Outside of its original effects, the True King, True Draco traps also have 2 of the same effects. Anytime during your opponent's turn, you can actually tribute summon during their turn, which is huge. And whenever the True Draco, True King trap cards are sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your opponent's monsters and destroy it. So you have that field control element, even going second. Next up, we got 2 copies of True Draco Apocalypse. I know it's kind of weird seeing these ratios, but I actually do like this particular way. It does help out because we are running the Monarchs, and that just helps clear out the field. True Draco Apocalypse allows you to target in the face-up True Draco or True King card. You destroy it, and you cut all your opponent's monsters' attack in half, which is very awesome. Handy, especially if your opponent gets some pretty big sticks out on the field. Next up, we do run 3 copies of the Monarchs Erupt. I like running 3 copies of this guy primarily because you want to see it in your opening hand, and if you don't see it, you want to be able to search it. And by revealing it off of all 3 copies off of Pantheism, you're going to be able to get into the card you need. Last up, we have the Prime Monarch. It is a continuous trap card, so again, tribute fodder. Which is awesome. It can kick back any of your your Monarch spells and traps back into your deck to actually be able to get you additional draws. And even in the graveyard, you can bring it back and it acts as tribute fodder. So yes, it does a whole lot of work. And the final trap card in the deck, I run 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Just predominantly, you want to be able to shut down your opponent's turn by stopping key summons or the activation of key spells. And Extenders just helps, and protecting your own back row does come up a lot, and this card actually does do that. I know it does seem really weird not running that many other floodgates into this deck, but like I said, this deck is really flexible. You can customize it the way you want. I've been having a lot of fun running this particular deck. It's been able to hang with a lot of different meta decks, and to be very honest, this deck It does what it does, and it does it very well. I enjoy it, guys. Just try it out. You'll see what I mean. As always, guys, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe, enable notifications so you don't miss any of my uploads. Check out the description box below. Find the link to my affiliate, tcgplayer.com. Help support the channel. Follow me on social media. And guys, until next time, peace.